Hello beloveds, welcome to this video where we're going to be diving into the depth and the real reasons why we might want to step into a womb journey and connect with our womb, to recollect our feminine embodiment, to truly understand what that is. There is some definitely misconceptions with the womb work and sacred feminine arts. You know, as a female body person, we might find that I am masculine and feminine within my energy, so why would I just do female work? Like, this is going to exclude the masculine energy within me. And this is really not what it's about. It's not about just working with feminine energy and being super feminine and girly and, just getting stuck into that. Some of that is, of course, there, and that's fine. But it also is, it's really about our anatomy. The anatomy of our body is that we have the sexual organs, we have the hormonal system that are very physically female, and they need particular practices also within their spiritual practices to develop and harness and support them. Because your spiritual practice should often support your physical body as well. If your spiritual practices actually neglect, harm, or could destroy your physical body, then I wouldn't suggest that that's a very good spiritual practice, because we've come here in this body to inhabit the body and learn from this body and this experience. So always wanting to do practices that always are about leaving the body, ascending, and this sort of thing, it's not necessarily the healthiest thing for anybody to be doing all the time. There are people, and there are things, and there are times, and there is a place for it all. But just to know that some of those things can be detrimental to our actual well-being and health and the longevity of our spiritual development in the long run. The same goes with, especially for women, because we have cycles, we have a hormonal system that is very delicate and very complex. And if we're doing things like prolonged fasting, long periods of sitting, meditation, and these sorts of things that are, again, very ascension-based, leaving the body, or, being in this very masculine approach to spirituality, certain practices do have more of an attribute to that, then we sometimes forget about how to nurture our feminine body, and it can start to feel a bit neglected, and we start to lose the benefits of what we've actually gained through our spiritual practice. And I say this from someone very first hand. I did used to love doing fasting, and I still do fasting, but it's learning about how to do that in your cycle. And it's things like knowing that sometimes I need to move my body more, and that my spiritual practice is a lot more movement based than prolonged levels of meditation necessarily, as much as it was before. And this is simply because this is just what my feeling of within my body, my Shakti, life force energy, wants to move. And I found those modalities that have truly allowed my body to feel like that. And, for women, what we miss in our spiritual practices is those rites of passage, going from the maiden, the lover, the mother, the wise woman, all these different archetypes of the different season that we go through in our life. And when we start to honor those and live by those, we start to be more connected actually to our soul, to our spirit, to our essence in our body, in our everyday experience. It's not about, going away and doing a meditation, then coming back into reality and having a hard time being in reality because it doesn't meet our expectations. It's about actually living with it, living amongst nature, with nature, as nature. And I think that's what the feminine body really teaches us, because we can't stir away from it unless we are prepared to stir away from the optimal well-being of our body. The same with cycles. If a woman was to do very prolonged levels of fasting or very intense kind of spiritual practices that could actually prevent her from having her cycle for a long time. And again, same here. I have had periods of time where I'd had long periods of time without menstruation, and this isn't like in Taoist practices there is an ability to do that as well. So I'm not dismissing those sorts of practices. There are some where you work with cultivating your chi and turning that chi that you would maybe turn into blood, for instance. But there is actually a need for it. The womb goes for a cleanse. When we bleed, it's actually cleansing. It's a release And we need to sometimes learn how to honor that and not shame it. There are spiritual practices, spiritual teachings out there that are maybe of a more new age approach. And I don't really like to use the word even putting things in categories of new age necessarily, but because I think that new age, some of it has actually come from ancient teachings and it's just repatented in a different way. But some of it is kind of like, people are having these maybe epiphanies, downloads, or idea about things, and then they bring that to the world. They've got a great following and lots of people look up to them, and so they start to follow into that. And I think that comes into the things about the moon and all these sorts of things, and how women aren't meant to be bleeding and this and that. And I went through that of being really confused by that. If my body is in the same cycle of the moon, the 28 days and all these different things, and now this thing isn't real, how do I deal with that? What does that mean for me and my body? And it took me a long time to go through that process and really fully understand that in terms of what was being fed to me through the spiritual communities that were talking about a lot of stuff like this. And maybe there are some negative entities or whatever that do certain things and manipulate and this and that, but they can also sometimes do that within the spiritual community and confuse people a lot with different teachings that just really don't correlate to us as an individual either. Same with diet, there's so many different diets out there, and that this is going to help you ascend, or this is going to mean you're the most spiritual person. And as a woman, again, there are certain things that I think that it's so important to ensure that we have, in our bodies to support our bodies. And there is no right or wrong with these different diets, but it's actually just about you finding the right thing for you. So you've got to listen to your own body. You've got to learn how to tune in to these, whatever, if you hear a spiritual thing and you think, oh gosh, that's triggering something in me, or that's going against some belief or practice that I've been developing, really then it's about checking in with you and really feeling where that's coming from. Is that because it's testing your truth because it actually wants to help you evolve and develop into something else? Or is it testing your truth because it just doesn't align? And actually, when we stay centered in ourselves and really listening to us, then we are not allowing these other things to deregulate us and throw us off of our own path and what is best for us. So this is where, when we go on our womb journey, what we actually do is we're clearing out a lot of the programs, a lot of the belief systems that come from childhood, come from partnerships, come from our own perceptions that we may be building up around us through even our society, through the TV and the movies and all these different things that make us develop an idea about what a woman is, how we live our lives, what's best for us, and all these different things. We don't want to keep getting caught up in that. We don't want to keep being lost in all these different shoulds and how to's and what if, and actually really learn how to tap into us. So this is where womb comes in, because when we really listen deeply within ourselves, we're listening into the womb. We're listening into the rhythms, the messages, and the stories that the womb has to say. We want to clear out the stories that are not our stories, and we want to start to listen to the soul story that is held within our womb, the codes within our being that are intrinsically connected to who we truly are on a soul level. And that is the process of a womb journey. It's learning to really deeply listen to us through our bodies, through our being, because our bodies have a correlation to nature. It is nature itself, and it's mirroring the ways in which we can actually live in accordance to the laws of nature, rather than some made up fads that are out there, right? That maybe was right for one person and now they think they need to teach everybody. I mean, ironically, right, I'm saying kind of the same thing, but I'm really not trying to teach. And I really hope that we can all come to this kind of realization that we're not, when we want to teach and give people a way, we shouldn't be giving people a way that dysregulates them out of themselves. We need to be teaching ways that actually help people come back to themselves. And this is what I notice even within, I love yoga, I love qigong, I love all these practices and these ancient philosophies. I've got a lot of respect for lineage and ancestry and, the indigenous cultures as well. But sometimes we are actually also holding on to things and we get stuck in these structures that we don't actually then evolve into like what it is that needs to come through us and be listened to us. And this is where the womb, for me, has really come in play, because we learn how to listen within, we learn how to be guided, and then these practices become more nurturing and supportive for us because we know what we need to pick up, what we need to use. We're not just going, oh, I feel really dysregulated, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do this, and just keep doing things, spending billions of pounds on mentors and products and all these different things to try and, fix us, when we didn't need fixing. We needed to remember us, our wisdom, our womb, our way. And so this is where, when we follow the womb, when we follow our body, when we start to learn how to unravel some of those conditionings, even the ones that seem really good, and then we start to kind of go, okay, this is actually what's good for me. This is what feels good for me right now. And it might not always feel good for me, and that's okay. It might feel good, it might not feel good, then it will feel good again, and that's okay too. If it comes and it goes, I allow everything to move like wind and water flowing through my life. So I hope that this has been some kind of eye-opening ideas of, yes, I do need to listen to my intuition, and I do want to be more in tune to what I need rather than outsourcing all the time. Well, then I would invite you to explore ways of decluttering the other, decluttering the noise, so that you can feel and sense and discover the intuition, the messages, the ability to really be guided from within your womb, within your being, through the journey of the womb. And if you want to explore that, then I do have a link below where you can join my 9-part womb journey, and it is an email series where I give you different perspectives and tips on how you can explore that, and then you can go on an inquiry and a contemplation, investigation within yourself to see what that aligns and see if that cracks open some kind of inner awareness and guidance for yourself. So I hope that you enjoy it. Please do reach out when you do it and let me know how it goes. But for now, please subscribe, follow, and I will see you very soon. Much love.